This is Inside Town Hall, a behind-the-scenes look at city government and the issues affecting you and your family.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Inside Town Hall. I'm your host, Madeline Shields. Coming up on the program, we meet newly elected City Councilor Theresa Stehly. She's going to tell us about what she's going to work toward on the Sioux Falls City Council. We'll be back in just a moment.
Would you drive at 60 miles per hour the length of a football field while blindfolded? Have you driven at 60 miles per hour and checked a text message?
If you said yes to the second question, then you're guilty of the first question too. By taking just a few moments to look at your phone to see who's calling while traveling 60 miles an hour, you will cover more than 100 yards while looking at your phone.
Save a life.
Save it for later.
Brought to you by the City of Sioux Falls.
New city councilors in Sioux Falls started their new job in May, and visiting with us today on Inside Town Hall is newly elected Theresa Stehly. Thanks for joining us for the episode.
Wonderful to be here, Madeline.
And you have some beautiful flowers that you brought with you on the set. Let's talk a little bit about that first off.
These are flowers from my yard. I made the bouquet for you this morning, and many of these are from my boulevard garden. So I know we'll be touching on that later on.
We're going to talk about the boulevard because I know that's one of the things that was very dear to you, that you wanted to get some things changed. Exactly. And you have worked as a citizen advocate. But first, let's back up a little bit and tell us about who is Theresa Stehly.
Theresa Stehly is a woman who's lived in Sioux Falls for over 30 years. I have my degree is in music, so I am a music instructor. I teach private piano. I've been at USF. I've just finished my 12th year of being a voice instructor there. I direct the church choir. I've been doing that for the last 25 years. And I've also been a gardening instructor through the Sioux Falls School District. So, and I'm also a driver's ed instructor. So I do a lot of different things.
How many jobs do you have?
Well, I can count them. Yeah. I'm very diversified. I like lots of different things, and life is short, so I say if you have a passion or have an interest, go for it. Try it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and if you're a driver's ed instruction, do you do children or young teens and adults? Or
I have done adults. I've worked with like the high school age children.
All
yes.
right. Well, that's got to give you nerves of steel.
Yes, it really does.
Let's talk a little bit about where you grew up and what made you want to run for Sioux Falls City Council.
Well, I grew up in Mobridge, and actually a very wonderful activity as a child was swimming outside. Back in the 50s and 60s, that we didn't have a lot of extra things to do, so we spent our time at the pool. And so I really kind of got involved with city government back in 2006 when they had a vote on the Nelson Park Rec Center, which I had nothing to do with. And then they started a discussion about what to do with that Drake Springs pool.
Right, and that's why I just wanted to clarify. Yeah. It's Nelson Park, but it's Drake Springs pool
within
area.
The park, yes. Right. And so I got involved with that only because I thought the children in that area needed to retain some sort of outdoor swimming venue. And that thing kind of led from one thing to another, and we ended up doing this initiative, citizen-driven, and had a vote for that. So that was when I started to become involved with city politics and how things, the mechanics of it.
Talk a little bit about how you got involved, and then you did see some results, and maybe what are some of what's your advice for other people who want to see change?
Well, and I'm a big advocate in my life of saying, do something. Try to make a difference. Don't just sit back and complain. And so I hope that I will be remembered as a woman who took action on things, whether you agreed with me or not. I've always tried to step out, and I try to do it with integrity and respect for all those people involved in the process. But I will say, I have to say back to my city council experience, my dear friend Kermit Stagers, who was our at-large city council person, and he spent years representing us in the legislature and on the council and in the central district position. That man was a great inspiration to me. And he always encouraged me as a citizen to step up. One of the few city council people who ever encouraged me to come and speak in front of the city council at public input. And I think people who knew him and who know him respect him for that, because he really reached out to the citizenry. So when he decided not to run in February, I had no plans on stepping into this, and he decided not to run, and I felt called from the depth of my being to step in and try, just to carry on that sense of citizen representation on the council, and I won. So I'm excited about helping people to participate in the process.
Let's talk a little bit about some of your citizen activism and what you have worked toward even before ever being elected. And one of those things is, you brought the flowers. One aspect was changing a city ordinance that would not allow citizens to plant in their boulevard in front of their homes.
That is right. Well, and there was an ordinance on the books that said you could just have grass or a ground cover under, like, let's say 7 inches. It was a low mandate. And, well, I was inspired years ago by the boulevards by McKinnon Park on 22nd Street. And I did ask, I started planting because people were planting, and I asked Dave Munson and Steve Metley, who was our planning, in the planning department, is this okay? And they said it was. So I continued to expand on my garden, and then and people are doing this and beautifying it, and then I'm hearing from people that they've had citations because they might have grass that has been killed, dirt, bare spots, and that was illegal as well. Rocks, I mean, anything, even mailboxes were not in compliance. So this started to come up, it came up 2 years ago, and that was such a restrictive proposal that I worked to put the hammer down on that. And then it came up again, Councilor Greg Jamieson brought it up, and I spent hours driving around town getting addresses with friends, taking photos. I alerted all the people in our community that this was coming down the pike, and I think there was a response to the City Council as to what we wanted to see. And so we have a new ordinance. I will say, Madeline, moving forward, because this year they're going to be educating, the next year they're going to be doing what they call a soft enforcement, and then they're saying the next year is going to be smash it down. And I will tell you, there are two things that are going to be problematic. The rocks, they're saying you can only have 25% rock in your boulevard. And if you drive around town, you're going to see prominent residences with much more than 25%. And if one person gets turned in, they will probably turn around and turn in everyone else. So that's one thing. The other thing, people have come to me and said, we have small shrub roses in our boulevard. They've put a mandate against that. So we may quickly find out how easy it is to just tweak an ordinance that really isn't serving our citizens well.
What would you like to see ultimately that ordinance say?
Well, what it says now, it says you can have 3 feet of flowers or vegetables, whatever you want. I just think we need to change that rock aspect to. I think if the rock is recessed, and as they're talking about the small river rock, I think that's okay. I mean, let it be 100%.
Why do you think there is an ordinance that says there should not be rock more than 25%?
Well, they were even, I mean, I was contacted by council members that said, what do you think, Theresa, 25, 35? And I said, hey, 100%, I think there was just this idea that we had to put some kind of numbers on this. So the thing for me, my personal perspective, Madeline, on city government, it needs to be flexible. It needs to breathe into what's going to help the citizenry. Do you understand? It has to always be connected to the purpose and full of common sense.
Do you believe that there do need to be some hard and fast rules pertaining to some areas so that people
yes,
keep their yards up and make things look nice?
Right, and I mean, that's what we have. I mean, we have that in place, and you can't have noxious weeds. Yeah, so I'm okay with the majority of what that ordinance says.
Okay. And what are some of the other things that you would like to see happen and let's talk about some of the things that you have done.
Yeah, and another thing that I found out about this early on, again from Councilman Kermit Stagers, is the snow gates. And that was almost 10 years ago I started bringing this up, and he was the one who said Bismarck, North Dakota was using them. And so I took it upon myself as a citizen to call Bismarck. I talked with their public works people. talked with the mayor who had actually led their petition drive, gathered the information, called the company, said how much do they cost, and started to propose this. And it was just shut down, shut down, shut down. And I kept bringing it back. And so finally, when our mayor, Mike Huther, was running for election, he approached me after I'd spoken about him at the city council, and he told me he liked them. You know, he was on board with that. And so then he got elected, and he started testing them, and I say thank you, Mayor, for doing that. But I knew that the city council was resistant to ever putting it through. So that's he doesn't have the power to push something like that through. So we started the petition drive. So we put that into an ordinance. So it's going to be lasting throughout the years. You know, it can't just be disbanded. And it's proven to be a very appreciated service. Now, Madeline, I do have some ideas for improving it, and I've already talked with Mark Cotter last week about this. I think we need to have some kind of a Snowgate hotline where people can call in if they would see their driveway has been totally missed, because that has happened. So they can call in, just like we have the pothole hotline, or the turn in your neighbor zoning violation or code violation hotline. And then I also would like to see our motor graders have a number on them so they can be easily identified. Now, Mark Cotter wasn't as eager to put that on there, but it doesn't hurt to talk about these things. You know, just like we have trucks out on the road that says, how's my driving?
Sure.
You know, with a number. Or we have driver's plates. We have license plates on our cars so we can be identified. So whatever is going to help to make it work the best for the citizens, and also to give recognition to those snowplow operators who are doing a fabulous job, because some of them are fantastic.
Are you concerned that if, I guess there's a hotline and a driveway gets missed and they have to go back, are you concerned with cost associated with those kind of items?
Well, I don't think the cost is going to be that great, and actually after I brought this up 2 years ago, Madeline, they had a much better year last year. So just the fact that this could happen, I think helps people to be a little more responsive. But it's an ordinance, just like we have an ordinance that we have to keep our sidewalks cleaned off, we have to keep our lawn mowed. This was an ordinance we put in for the city services. And if you want to start talking about cost, Madeline, there are many things that we spend money on in our city. This is a small thing that we're doing for all of our people. So I think it's worth it. And apparently the voters agreed with me when we voted on it. So.
And this is the work you've done before you were ever elected.
That's right.
Let's move on and talk about a couple of things that you're looking forward to working on.
Number one, and I've already been doing this, is to bring in people into the process. And we've been in office for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. I've already had a huge opportunity to encourage people to come and testify at public input, and to educate people about the mechanics of how our meetings work. We have an agenda, or the informational is at 4 o'clock on Tuesdays. Right. And people don't know that. So 4 o'clock, we have department heads coming in. We've asked for the sheriff and the chief of police to come in and give a report. We can ask for topics. And that's just to educate the council. And at that time, which people don't know, is that is one of the few times the council can actually discuss things as a group and do it publicly, because we cannot be together with more than 4 of us in public talking about things. So that's a time when we can be passing things around and chewing things up and considering things for the public. So then we have the 7 o'clock meeting, and that's when the public can come up and testify. And then we also have first and second readings, which again, people are not aware of. When do I come and present an idea, and when's the best time to get that out there for the council to consider? So we've got a few issues that have come up that are somewhat contentious for the citizens, and so we've been encouraging people to come and voice their opinions.
Do you think having the meetings online is helpful?
I think it is very helpful, yes. I'm very concerned that we have a system that's easily easily accessible. And I know we've just changed over to a new website, And I have gotten some feedback from people who are having some problems maneuvering through that. So, you know, we're going to be giving it a chance to kind of sift out and then check into that. And that's, I am committed to checking into things that need to be addressed and hopefully getting things resolved in a timely manner for the people.
Okay. At this point, we're going to take a quick break. We are visiting with newly elected City Councilor Theresa Stehly. We will be back in just a moment to talk about some of the other things that she's working toward in the future.
Looking for fun summer employment? Do you like working with kids? Look no further. Sioux Falls Parks and Recreation is seeking reliable teammates to work in a variety of part-time roles, from playground staff and youth leaders to pool positions and lifeguards. To learn more about these opportunities, log on to siouxfalls.org and look under seasonal employment. Positions begin at $9.25 per hour.
We are continuing our discussion with the newly elected Theresa Stehly. Thanks for joining us for Inside Town Hall. Let's move forward and let's talk about some of the programs that you hope to work toward as an elected official.
Well, something that is actually very timely right now is something called the Neighborhood Watch program. And people might have seen these signs around town. I started our Neighborhood Watch 20 years ago. 1996, and their records go back to 1995, but I think it might have been in existence in Sioux Falls before that. But I started seeing more rental properties in my neighborhood, and so at that time it was very publicized that this was something you could get involved in, and they had 2 officers dedicated to Neighborhood Watch. So they came over to my house and we got together and had a meeting and started that, and ever since then I have hosted a picnic almost every year, and it has been a fabulous thing for our neighborhood. I live by Van Epps because we know each other, and so I've said this as a citizen for years. I always say let's do more to promote this. Now that I'm elected, I think I have even a more powerful voice in helping that. And okay, go ahead.
Well, it's been, like you said, it's been going for about 20 years. Why do you feel that people aren't taking advantage of this program in their neighborhood?
I think they are, and according to Kyle Johnson, we have 60 neighborhood watch groups, and I did bring this up a few weeks ago. I was on the media and talking about it, and he said after that happened, he got calls to form new groups. Okay. So, and I will use an example. When we had that event center vote, Madeline, and our mayor did a lot of promotion on that. And the promotion, education, and people came forth and participated. We can never underestimate the need for connecting to people with the message. One time just doesn't do it. I'm a teacher with children. You have to do reinforcement. So this kind of a program, I think you have to let people know it's out there. And so we just had our sheriff talking about the 12% rise in crime rate, right, and that it is a problem in Sioux Falls. And he's talking about violent crime, guns, drugs. It's just a matter of time before we have a homicide on our hands, just a random shooting. And so what I'm going to do is I've been talking with the police department. We're designing a flyer. We've designated some areas that may benefit from a neighborhood watch, and I'm going to go out door to door with my flyer, and it will say how to start a group. I'm going to put it out there, go to the people. Now, I have to try. If you don't try, you will not know. And I've already been called by people who are interested in this, and I want to make sure that anyone interested is going to have the greatest support, the greatest outreach to try to make this thing happen.
You know, we see those signs all around Sioux Falls. Do you think people just become complacent and don't get involved? Maybe if they move into a new neighborhood and they don't find out who their neighbors are?
Well, and the sign, of course, I think these signs are powerful. And anytime I drive into a neighborhood and I see this, I think, well, somebody cares, you know, versus no sign. So that in itself is neat. And when I did it, we had an insurance company that bought the signs. That this is the issue, you have to pay for the sign. So I may have to pay for the signs personally to help these people, which comes out of my tithing, which is another thing we might talk about. But anyway, the signs are great. They have little window clings you can put in. But in order for the watch to work, you have to have a leader. You have to have what they call a watch captain. So when I go out and talk with people, I'm going to be looking for people who are willing to take the lead and say, let's get this thing started, and just organize people to come together. Unfortunately, people don't want to get involved until something happens. And I know that there were break-ins on the south end of town, people coming into garages, and guess what? They formed a watch group. So then it's like, yeah, I guess there is a problem.
Sure.
So I want to be proactive in front of this. It's a low-cost way of trying to help the police department to keep our eyes and ears open to one another.
Do you think citizens kind of already do that? Like, they know maybe their neighbor's going to be out of town, so they kind of watch and see if there's any traffic? Or do you think people are kind of stay by themselves? Is Sioux Falls getting to be a bigger city where people aren't watching out for each other?
Well, of course, and you've got this transient neighborhood dynamic. People are moving and coming, even in higher income neighborhoods. So we are not a small town anymore, and we have to take measures to know who one another are, to care for our neighbor. And then I know all my neighbors, I know their comings and goings, and we check on each other, and it's really wonderful. But you have to work at it.
Will a neighborhood watch program work in a rental neighborhood? Is that something you're also going to want to
and that'll
approach?
be something to discover. And then some of these neighborhoods, of course, have lots of multifamily dwellings, and so then how does that work? But I will tell you, when you have the presence of this, and when we have our picnic, we go around, hey, we're a neighborhood watch, come to our picnic. I think it makes people a little bit if they're doing something they're not supposed to be, if they know they're being watched in a loving, caring way. We really do care about one another. Okay. So that's one thing I'm going to do.
So you're encouraging people to get to know their neighbors.
Exactly.
Because that has fallen off a little bit.
Yes.
And we want to talk about other things.
Yes. Okay.
What else are you
another
hoping
thing
to look at?
Madeline, dear to my heart, I'm going to talk about the park board, and I don't want people to think I'm trashing the people who are on the park board. I know they serve as a volunteer position. But for years, I have felt we need to change the dynamic to have a representative from every district of our city on the park board, so that the people in that district have a voice in saying what the decisions will be for their parks, their pools, ball fields, whatever that might be. And I'll use the analogy, because right now, the park board is mostly made up of people south of town. And that would be, to me, like someone living in Watertown and Aberdeen making decisions about Sioux Falls. We don't want them making our decisions. They don't live here. So I think the people in the northwest part of town would say, we want to make some decisions. We want a voice in what you're doing for our area. And we want someone who lives here to be a part of it.
What needs to happen to change that? Are there only so many positions,
and that's what I've been asking. Several years ago, I spoke to the Charter Revision Commission to say, is this where I go? I was involved with the Snowgate thing, so I can only handle so many issues at a time, of course, as a citizen. But I met with Don Curdy, the head of the park department, last week. I brought this up to him, and also I think because the park board handles like $17 million. I mean, it's a huge budget. So I just want to see every part of town having the same resources and availability of development that any other part of town has. And in today's paper, it's June 10th, but they're talking about Terrace Park, and this is a good case in point that these people are fighting to keep the paving stones, the historical pathways that they've had when they want to take those out and put a concrete thing in. And these are the things we kind of grapple with. I think there's going to be compromise. I think they're going to be able to work it out. But the people, Terrace Park has a neighborhood association that talks about things. One of those people should be on the park board. So we're not reacting to decisions, but we're part of making that decision happen.
So how do you get on the park board? Are you appointed or
you're
are you
appointed?
Elected?
You're appointed by the mayor, and those appointments are then going to be approved by the council.
Okay, so if there's no one from that neighborhood on there, does that mean nobody wants to be on there?
Well, I don't. That's the political. How are appointments made, and
right.
So I think it would just to take that that maneuvering out of it. It'd be like, this is how it is. Just like we have on the council. I mean, we have somebody from the Northeast is elected. And they have, Southwest and Southeast each have a council representative, but they also have a bulk of the park board members. So that's kind of, you've got double representation down there.
So would you like to see, instead of appointments, have those be maybe a 2-year election or elected position
And that
people would
could be,
interested
I mean,
in?
I think this is a discussion we need to have. Shouldn't just be, my opinion. So do you just put a designation that there'll be an appointment from these areas, or is it an elected kind of a thing? But this is our government, so we can, I'm about thinking outside the box. Just because it's always been done one way doesn't mean we can't, go a little bit past that.
Sure. And let's talk about what some of your priorities are. You talked about tithing.
Tithing,
with the city council.
Well,
what does that mean?
Well, I'm a big advocate of tithing. You give back from the generosity that has been poured into your spirit. And we've been called in as new city council members to all these different boards. And they're expressing needs, and they're showing us what they're doing for the people in our community that cannot do for themselves. We have a growing population of people who cannot find housing. They're getting minimum wage, and we've got this growing chasm of have and have not. And so I think we need to be looking for ways to support those organizations that are helping those people. And so as we look at the budget, and I've never done this before, we've got 4 new people coming into this, but we're looking at the big piece of the pie, and a budget is, I think, similar to like a homeowner. Or just you and I. You got a part that's mortgage. We got debt to pay off. You're going to have just maintenance costs. You're going to have something. Well, we want to do some renovation. That's over here, and then a piece of recreation. We certainly have a nice recreation entertainment piece, and then I think there needs to be a piece, for giving back, for helping. So that I think there's a group of us who feel that that's important. Okay. And then I did want to touch on Project Trim.
Yes.
And that goes back to the park department, but I know that, and when I was running, I brought this up, but we do have what we do in our community is we put that trimming of the boulevard trees back on the citizens. And other communities take care of that themselves with their forestry department. We've been through our community 2 times now with Project Trim, where the city says, you do it. They're very unclear about which branches need to be cut. I've heard from citizens and experienced myself that program is just very unfriendly to the user, to the homeowner. So it's been done, it's there. So now I said to Don Kearney, our park head of our parks department, it's about maintenance now for you guys. Let's do a pilot year or 2 and have you guys just go out and just do a little bit of, if something's hanging too low, just snip it off and take care of it for us. And do that as a service to us as part of what we're paying out of our, the sales tax and our property taxes. So that's something I'm going to be advocating for, and I know I have support on the council for, taking a look at that. So citizens, this is where I'm going. And let me just say, I'm about helping the people. What can we do to help people have that's quality of life to me, is affordable living and helping services that are going to make life easier for us.
And you want a broader representation for all citizens in the city of Sioux Falls.
Yes.
That whether they're appointed or
exactly.
elected.
And you know what? I don't want everyone to think like me. I said that during my campaign. We've had people on the council who are very involved with the chamber. They're developers, they're real estate people. I'm just your average citizen citizen advocate, but I think that it's important to have a variety, a diversity of voices for people.
If people want to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you?
Well, they can call 367-8806, or my email is tstehly, Stehly, @siouxfalls.org. And worst case scenario, you just call down to the city clerk's office or go on the city website.
Sure.
And then you could do that.
Well,
so.
great. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck with your new position as elected on the Sioux Falls City Council. Well, that's our time for Inside Town Hall. If you would like more information or try to get a hold of any of the city councilors, you can reach them at siouxfalls.org. Thanks for watching.